So last Wednesday we looked at Venba. As it is true of any pa, the first one is the defining feature, that is, what features make a verse into Venba or any other type. As we have been saying, one is prosody, which is a defining feature. The second thing is what they call urichi, that is, certain seeds are privileged to a particular pa. In the case of Venba, it is Mu as a chi that ends in kai, so it's a kai chi, so it's when urichi or when seed for shot, right? Then you have then it is the length of seed in terms of the number of asais in it, and also the length of adi in terms of the number of seeds. And as we saw, it is it's flexible in the sense that other variations are also admissible. Right? So the other aspect is the length of the poem itself, right? The length of seed, length of adi, and then the length of poem. That is measured in terms of the number of adis, or number of lines in a poem, and Venba goes from 2 lines to I think they said 12 lines or something, something like that. And also in terms of the number, the length of adi, it is not chiradi, that is 4 seed adi, but you will have muchiradi, that is 3 seed in the penultimate adi. The Tamil word for penultimate is e-trial, right? So close to the last, that is e-trial. And they also have another term, eruttadi. Eruthu is neck, so it's a neck of the poem. And I think the use of eruthu has a difference in comparison with e-trial, which is just the numbering of lines. The eruthu seems to me to conceive a poem as having inner parts. Right. So eruthu is one part of it. You see, it would become explicit when we come to kalipa. So the inner parts of a pa is spelled out there. But I think it could be carried over to other things also. So if you take in Venba, the last but one line and the last line are different in terms of the length of line. That could be viewed as one part of Venba. So then we come to the question of subclassification of each pa. Right? So the pas are basically 4, and each one is subdivided into various subtypes, as they call them. I mean, there is no separate word for that in the Tamil grammatical description. They say it with the name of a particular pa, like Venbavahai, Kalipavahai, or something like that. Whereas the larger one would be just Pavahai, which would have the four pa. So even though we talked okay, see about that. There's one controversy or difference of opinion. Tolhapia's terms are Kuruven Pattu, Nedumven Pattu, right? There are two things, short and one. And taking 4 line as the minimal one, then what is less than 4 would be Kurvan Pattu, what is more than 4 would be Neduvan Pattu. The debate among the commentators is whether Kuruvan Pattu includes both Kural Venba with 2 adi and Sindhiyal Venba which is 3 adi, or it refers to only Kural Venba. So everything else would be Neduvan. Neduvan Pattu. I mean, the controversy arises because Tolhapiam defines in one place that Kuruvan Pattu has 7 seeds.
Okay.
So 7 seeds would be only for Kural Venba, and therefore it's only Kural Venba. But I think overall my sense is that it is divided with 4 line as the center. So Kural Venba should include Kural Venba as well as Sindhiyal Venba. And the 4 line is Samanala Venba, and the others don't have a name to themselves. So this is based on the number of lines. Then, as far as the seeds go, it is Yerchi, that is 2 asai seed ending in ma or Viram, and then we have the Movasai seed, right? Then the special feature of Venba is that the final seed, that is end of pa seed, would be Asachi. So Asachi in the sense that it is one Asai makes a seed, right? And that Asai could be either Uri Asai, that is Nerebu, or it could be the general Asai, right? But I don't know whether the traditional commentators or modern scholars point out that there is one stipulation when it is Nerasai, that is, you should have a coda, you should end in a consonant. I mean, a single Uirma எழுத்து would be a nail, or a nedil would be a nail, but that cannot make an Asachi in that context. So the formula or the code for them is Nar and Malar. So literally it should end in La, and it should end, Malar is different, Nar should end, but you could have just Malar as a cheese. So this is I think one place where the coda has a role to play.
Even Malar would be Nirai.
Malar would be Nirai, and that would be a qualified seed at the end of Venba.
But also, yes, because also not only near, but also nirai must end in consonant, must be
No,
closed.
no,
Nirai
no,
could also
no.
be open.
Yeah, so in Tirukkural Ahula,
Like
Nira
Vira or
Pira
whatever.
could be,
Yeah.
only with near, I mean,
It's closed.
it has to be a closed, closed syllable. Then another feature of Venba is what is called Tanichol, that is a seed which is coterminous with the word boundary, and also it has special status in the sense that it stands out from rest of the seas, you see, and also I mean the OSI has some impact on that, and that becomes I mean, there has a functional role, as we see with the other classification of Venba. So one is a classification by the number of lines, and the other is classification by Tode. Right? And the commentators map these two, and therefore, if you have, you have subtypes and the number says Sindhiyal, and then here there is one called Innisai, then you say Sindhiyal, Innisai Sindhiyal Vanva, Sindhiyal Innisai. Yeah, Innisai Sindhiyal Vanva, I think that. I mean, you could generate too many more categories. Okay, about this criterion of Todai is also brings in another another concept which is called Viharpam, Todai Viharpam. I think what is meant by this is this. You could have Todai, let us say Yaduhai, which is required. So in a 4-line Venba, you could have first 2 lines to have Yaduhai, or all 4 lines to have Yaduhai. So if all Yaduhais are same Todai, that is same consonants, then it would be Oru Viharpam. So it's it is a Todai which is the same, which is distributed across all 4 lines or across all 4 Cs, whatever the case is. If you have one Yaduhai for the first 2 and another Yaduhai for the second 2, that would be Iru Viharpam. So there are 2, I call it kinds of Todai. But what they say is one Todai is different from the other in terms of its phonetic quality. So, so the first one is purely based on the Todai, not the difference between Todai, right? You see. And Todai is basically on the basis of where it occurs in an Adi. Okay. As we have seen, Todai is we could say more or less required in the first C unless it is Sendodai, right? And among in that one, Yaduhai is considered to be the most required one, right? Then they take it to the Todai in the 4th C. Right? So first seal and the 4th seal. So that has a special, I think, a functional significance as we look at the problems we discussed with regard to splitting lines, right? So if you have the Mudal seal and the 4th seal have the same Todai, that will give an indication where you cut the line, right? So that's why Edhai became, they use Edhai for this. That's why the fourth place for Todai has another functional role for Tuk, for splitting the line. So when you come to the fourth seed, there are two things. The fourth seed could be Tanichal or not. Okay, so if it is Tanichal and that Venba is called Nerisai Venba. So Nerisai Venba is one where you have Todai in the fourth seed, assuming that it is there in the first seed, right?
Okay.
So if it is not a Tanichal, if it is a regular arrangement of four seeds, then it is called Innisai Venba, right? So that is one classification of Venba. I think it applies to other paths also, in terms of the Todai occurring in the fourth seed of that. I think we could hypothesize the fourth seed as an important because of its role in deciding the end of the Adi. Right? And also, I think this is again my extrapolation is that when, as I said, when there is no Tanichal, then it is Innisai. Todai in the fourth one is Innisai. This is because we saw that Tanichal has an impact in Osai. Right? So Innisai, if you understand it like harmonious Isai, then no impact from other sources. Right?
Okay.
So it's a clear running Osai or something like that. This is purely my hypothesis. I haven't read anybody saying that. So that could be the reason for calling it Innisai. But the criterion for dividing, subtyping these two is where the Todai occurs, right? And then you have,
I have a question there.
Yeah.
Vikarpam as a concept applies only to Vemba or to all Pa?
All Pa.
All Pa might have this.
Yeah, so you could, Todai is used in two senses. One is the slot where it occurs, right? Like Mudal Sir or even Mudalasai, like Monai and Eduhai. And the second one is what it fills. Right? So if it is all consonants, then you have one kind of Todai arrangement that would relate the poem to Vannam.
Vannam, exactly.
Right? So that is the second one. And the third one is how the Todais are different from each other. Right? So if you take, let's say, Mutrumonai, right? So all lines have the same monai, right? And then there is no Viharpam, in the sense that there is no another Todai which is different from this one. Right? So you could have a poem with multiple Todais in that sense. See? Not the same Todai being not same Todai manifesting in different positions, but you will have different Todai manifesting in different positions, right? And if you have the first is the Nerisai and Innisai, and then with each one you could have Oru Viharpam, Iru Viharpam, and like that.
Okay, and then I have another question, which
Yeah.
maybe I just didn't get. So
Yeah.
you said that Nerisai Vemba is a Vemba which has Todai in the first seer and in the last or in the fourth?
Fourth.
In the
Fourth is the last.
In the fourth and last
the
seer.
fourth seer is taken as the base.
Yeah,
Right.
right. So, but then, sorry, I didn't understand whether what is the role of Tanichol and all of that. Does, if there is a
So
fourth
Tanichol
seer,
would be the fourth.
right.
Asai,
So, but
right.
then it would also have the same Todai as the fourth Asai in line 1 and 3.
So if it would have the same Todai distribution or
Okay,
Todai
so
manifestation, but if it happens to be Tanichal, it is Nerisai. If it is not, then it is Inisai. Okay.
right, but in a 4-line Vemba, the fourth seer of the second line is always Tanichol.
Not necessarily. Right. So you could have, let us see some examples here. So you could have without Tanichal, see the 4.
So you could have a Vemba which is 3 lines without Tanichol, and
Or
then
even
the
4 lines without Tanichal.
4 lines, but the last line needs to be
Last line has to be 3.
3.
Yeah. So, but there are Venbas where other lines could also be 3, right? Yeah.
Right.
But the minimalist thing is the last Adi has 3 Cs.
Yes, but the minimalist thing is also that the second Adi has done it all, or not?
Yeah, I mean, in one sense of minimalist, yes, right.
I'm
But that is provided as the standard one.
Right,
Yeah.
in let's say maybe 80% of the cases.
I don't know. We had
We
to
can
count.
guess.
We had to count and then see.
And it
Yeah.
it does seem it's one of those things where there's a difference between theoretical prescription and what you actually see. Where
Yeah.
I mean, certainly anecdotally, in the small number of the total number of NBAs that have ever been written that I've seen, that does seem to be invariable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right.
So
But let us see here. See, I sent you that Venba Vahai, the previous one, as a handout.
yeah,
See, in that one, if you take the
word and out.
the last one with 12, right? Sitraru Vaittugalan Seyeri
Sorry,
Wait,
Kanina.
where are you?
No, I also don't find it.
Yeah,
So
this
because
is the last. I mean, the
the-
handout for the last week is Venba Vahai.
I
No,
thought
no,
that-
not last week. See, last class.
It was Todai Vahai we did last
Sasha
week.
asked me, can I show him an example of 12-line Venba?
Okay, yeah,
Because we
yeah.
all think Venba is 4 lines, right?
Yeah.
And you sent 3 examples, 3
Yeah,
JPEGs. Which one is this?
This is the last one.
So number 3.
Sittaru, yeah.
Okay.
Sittaru Vaittugalam Seyeri Kanninai.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in that you have 12 lines, there is no Tanichol anywhere. Right?
So it has 3 feet in its final Adi, and it has the Urichol for
Yeah.
Venba, and this is why we call it Venba.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's called Venba. First of all, it has the Seppadosai, we don't know about that. And it would have the Vensi, Urichi. So if you find Vensi, that is Movas achieved ending in Kai.
But this is an example from the Yapparungalam Verutte.
Yeah, right.
So it's
Yeah.
bound to be
Yeah.
a kind of
So-
theoretically driven
Yeah.
example.
Right. This has no Tanicha.
Okay.
Right? And while we are at it, we could also see, you see the first 3 lines, Sitraru, Vatra, Patrar, right? You have Eduhai in the first 3 lines. And then in the 5th line and 6th line, Tatti, Ottu, the Eduhai changes. So this would be Iruviharpa, right? Because the same Todai, same Eduhai is not repeated here.
But I realize I'm coming in late on the discussion, but we don't have in the fourth seed,
Uh-huh.
we don't have any kind of todai connecting the first and the fourth, right? Which is you were saying that.
That would be innisai, in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah, right. That would be Inisa.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So my
Yeah, I think to question whether the fourth seer must have a todai, right? This doesn't have. This doesn't
So
have
this,
one.
So this lacks
So-
tanichol
so,
and that
so
innocent.
okay. I think I could put it this way: if there is no tanichol, it is innisai. If there is a tanichol, it is nerisai.
okay.
Then you have an option of having todai.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Even with innisai and nerisai, you could have sendodai, that is, with no todai. Right, that's also a possibility, right? But the division of innisai and nerisai comes from whether there is a tanichol or not.
Okay.
Right.
So, but just to review this for a second, one identifies a tanichol on the basis that, from the point of view of meaning, it's not connected to what's happening in the previous lines, and because there is a change in osai. So the
Yeah.
tanichol is not within the osai of the rest of the
That
lines
is
preceding
that's a
it.
theoretical.
But
assumption.
technically, the osai doesn't really help because we don't know it.
Right.
So it's just that grammatical
It's
thing.
just a grammatical
And the
thing.
fact that in published editions there's an M dash before it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the editor
Just
will
to
deal
be
with
clear about
that.
that.
Yeah. Incidentally, I wanted to share with you. I have been checking around whether there are any marker in manuscripts at the end of a line.
Oh,
as
the tanichol.
Sanskrit has. No, about any line.
Ah.
Okay. Osai is a factor. One of them said that you find an hyphen at the end of the line, right? And that is parallel to the line in Sanskrit Grantha, right? But my suspicion is that some manuscript may have that. So it's an editorial thing, right? Because he also said that there are some manuscripts where it is like printed line.
I mean,
So
I
not
think
a running one, but you have the line break. So the manuscript do vary depending on the time and depending on the copyist. And
There's a very funny short article that Giovanni Ciotti wrote about this, about something called the rare user-friendly Tolhopium manuscript. That actually, but it's something where it was already contaminated with print culture. Basically,
Okay,
is what
okay.
what I think his contention was.
Yeah.
Was that it was late enough in the 19th century that they had already seen a print edition and
Yeah.
realized how useful
Okay.
these things were.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think there is a huge variation, especially throughout the 19th century, which is also the period
Yeah.
he studies more.
Okay.
Giovanni studies more specifically.
Yeah. So while we are on that long one, if you see, there are many kinds of todai. One is the other guy is there, and if you take the first line sitraru, and the third one is seyeri. Right? I think that is the polipu 1-3. If you have todai, it is. Polipu. So that is one kind of todai. So if you count the number of todais here, there are different kinds of todais in that one. That's why this is called Pakrodai Venba. Pakrodai is Pal todai. So there are many todais there. So that is Venba. Here also, as he says, that this is okay. Here also you could have nerisai pakrodai and innisai pakrodai. For that, he gives the example in the previous. Panmada Kudal, Madurai Nedundarivil, Ennod Nendrar Iruvar. Then Avarullum is taken to be. Yeah. Ponnode Nand. Yeah, right. and the previous one, Setrikal Neelam Siruvendra Vendan, so that is called Innisai Pagrada, right? There is no Tanichol there, right? So you have Pakurare because so in terms of Yeduhai, it's only one, Setrikal, Kuttural, Totram, Vitrume, Atrikal. But when you come to across C's, the first one is Setrikal, Seruvandra, Che is there. And then the third line is interesting, Totra, Tolilvadivu, Tamul, Tadumatram. So you have Mone across C, right?
Okay.
And that is a different Tore, right? So I don't know how they calculate. I have seen Oru Viharpatodai, Iru Viharpatodai, and anything about to probably Pal Todai, right? Because I have not seen Mu Viharpatodai.
So now I'm asking a silly
anything
question.
about 2 would be Pal.
In the third line, this Tamul Tadumatram, no? It's monai there too because theoretically the root has a dental ta, but because of Sandhi it becomes retroflex.
Yeah.
Does that count as monai or not?
It won't.
It won't. That's out of the Tode.
Yeah, right,
It's because the Sandhi letter is the one we actually consider.
Yeah. See here the editor has split it into having Sandhi. So I don't know how what leeway the editors have in that. So whether they could project more Todais by having Sandhi or not.
To continue with that example, though, so in the second line we have a lot of what we'd call, in English we'd call consonants, right? But these aren't counted theoretically. So, Kutror, Moimbir, Paharadi, Porokayil. So we have all these pa sounds repeating, but they're not repeating. They're not making
the third and fourth you have pa. Right.
Yeah.
So that the technical name would be Inaimone.
Okay.
Inaimone is when 2 adjacent C's have the same
pair
so pair mone.
But then this is I think a question I had also when we were talking about Varnam, because theoretically for Monai or Yedugai or whatever to be there across Sir, it always needs to be the first Sir too.
Yeah, the first Sir is an obligatory one, right?
But let's say in this second line, we could say third and fourth Sir have a P sound that could be Monai.
Yeah, but this won't qualify to be Vannam.
This won't qualify to be Vannam, but is this Todai?
Yeah, it is Todai.
It's Todai but not Vannam, because Vannam
is it's more intense. I mean, you could say that it is in all 4 C's or all 4 Adis.
But when we had the distribution talk about Vannam, there could be like the first and the third, the first, the third and the fourth, the first and the fourth. However, the first was always there.
Yeah.
So that is what we can talk about Vannam when the rest of the line kind of like relates to the first series.
Fall in line with the first two.
Okay.
The first one. Yeah, right. But you have a choice in other places.
Yeah, of course.
And they have different names. You see, if you say Voruturai, that suggests first and fourth.
Okay.
If it is Polipu, I think it's first and third or something, something like that, right? Inai would be the adjacent one, right?
Yeah, so, but I was looking at Nicholas' article, and even for Inai Todai, she only gives first and second seer as possibility, like as those are the 2 places. And so you have to have the first, and then when the Todai comes after that, then it's Inai Todai, but it's still always from the first.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll check anyway.
I mean, it's just a curiosity whether we can actually talk about these figures taking place in case they only take place in a part of the line, which doesn't involve the beginning, because it makes a big difference. Sometimes you do find heavy, like assonances.
From what I read, my sense is
end.
that Inai could be anywhere in the line.
Okay.
Only adjacent one. Whereas other ones are skipping, right?
Okay.
1 and 4. And
Although that raises again the same question that Margarita just asked about the third line here, where we have that tamul tarum. And whether again that would be, whether we'd have a duplicating effect where both of those, the third and the fourth see it in 2 consecutive lines have, if we're resolving the sandhi, have this inadore. Right, we have pahari, porokayel, and then tamul, tarum matru. But if we, so I mean, it's kind of an open question. That it means, so we already see the use of that in this one, for C is 3 and 4 and an individual ari. But here it's the same question, whether that would. But in any case, this would be different, because in that case it would be C is 1, 3, and 4, right?
It would be
1, 2.
So it would be named a different todai.
Yeah.
So that would be the difference, right? It wouldn't change the status of this poem being a par todai.
It would be Mer Kaduai.
Yeah, Mer Kaduai.
Which is 1, 3, and 4.
I don't keep it in mind what these things mean. I think Mer Kaduai, as I say it, blank on the right, I think, right? So it would be 2 and 4 kind of thing.
But still always the first, at least. So in that case, you skip the second.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So okay. So now we know this pakrodai, right? I mean, if as I told you earlier, I didn't give an independent reading of Tolhapiyam, right? To see what he says. So the Pakrodai Venba is not in any of the sutras.
Okay.
But Ilamborana says that. And he has the Grabal bad of Urayil Kodal, right? So the commentators write to read into that. So he tries to bring Tolhapiyam closer to Yaparingala. So my sense is that this classification is probably later, right? So, but I mean, theoretically, the point is that you would have Innisai and Erisai. So that is one kind of classification and sub-classification, and you can match it like this. So when you do that, I think again it's not stated anywhere, but I think Kural Venba cannot have this restriction of Innisai and Erisai because there is no fourth seal in the second line. But then when you come to Sindhya Venba, you could see that all 3 lines will have a todai if it has todai at all, because if you have todai only the first 2, the third one is left out. And Yaduhai is expected to be in every poem. So if that role, that significance is given to Yaduhai, then if you have Yaduhai at all in Sindhya, it will have in all 3 lines. Whereas with the 4 line, you have an option, you have it all 4 lines or 2. And 2, because todai by definition should have at least 2 lines or 2 C's to make the statement. Okay. So my feeling is that there is scope for research on the role of Tanichol, Right. So see, it seems to be more than just an iPhone.
Well, it produces this characteristic syntactic features. Of
Right, exactly. Exactly. Right. It seems to have some syntactic features built into it. Right? And then, okay. So then we know about osai. It is sepal osai. But some grammarians subdivide osai also. Right. So sepal osai, I think it might apply to other osai also, into three. One is Yendal osai, another is Tungal osai, and third one is Orugal osai. Right? We don't know what those things mean, but at least it shows the possibility that osai could be subdivided further, right? And this is not in Tollarpium, and this is given by one of an earlier work which called Sangayapu. Right? This is not extant, only we have citations, references from Yapurangala Virutti, right? So this would have been an interesting work if it is based on Sangam, and then he wrote the Yapu for Sangam poems. And he says when it comes to Venba, Sepalosai, so he calls it Yendalosai Cheppal, Tungalosai Cheppal, and Orugalosai Cheppal. And according to him, I mean, he takes Tarai as a contributing factor to osai. I think we all see that. And if all the Tarai are Yerchi, right, then he calls it Yendalosai Cheppal. Right? If all the asais are Vensi, right, then it is Tungalosai, Cheppal. Right? If it is mixed, then it is Orugalosai.
Okay.
We just know these names. We cannot say how these are differentiated in that one. Right? And then if you want examples of Venba after the so-called ethical poems, we have Muttolayiram, it's all Venba, and then Nadavenba is the most famous one for Venba. We have Bharata Venba also. So, I mean, why I say this is Tolkappiyam also tries to correlate to the content and part type. Right? It's not a very rigid correlation, but he points out that maybe in terms of preferential choice of power for a particular poetic content, right? And he says that for Venba, see, the one area is Kaikire. It's unreciprocated, I mean, which we see more commonly in Kalithai, but he puts it for Venba. I think Muttolayiram is an example of that. All Muttolayiram poems are Kaikire poems. I mean, like the Talavi seeing the king going on a procession on the street, and so all these are Kaikire. The another one, Tolkappiyam says for Venba is Angadam. See, Angadam is an irony in the later usage, but I think the commentators give Angadam a more general sense, saying that it is Kuripal Unarthapaduvathu. So anything suggestive is Angada. Right? So this irony is only one kind of suggestive. suggestive thing. I don't know what the example of that in available literature. Okay, and this is completely left out by the later grammarians. If we come to Yapuranga, there is no correlation between poetic content and poetic form in that period. Right? Okay. This is about Venba, and there is a dissertation on how Venba developed over a period of time. I couldn't get a copy of it, and I got only a few pages of that, so I'll have to do a search where it was.
If you want, it's not on Shotganga.
Yes, it could be, but I haven't searched.
If you want to send me the title, I will check.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then we go to Asayappa. Okay. Okay. Asayappa also has another name, Ahavalpa, which is based on the Vosai of Assyrian. And interestingly, it also has another name which Tolkapian uses, which is Senduku. So if you understand Senduku on par with Sendodai, there's a kind of free Todai, right? It must also suggest that this is very flexible in terms of line arrangements. We saw that with Syriac, right? So the similar kind of thing. So he calls it Sentuku, and the commentators say that Tuku is used in the sense of pa. So this is a free pa. Not free verse, but free pa. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this, see, in the larger scheme of things, Venba and Asariyappa are put in opposition. Right? And Vanjipa is tied with Asariyappa, and Kalippa is tied with Venba. Right? So the pure contrasting parts are two, Asariyappa and Venba. We will see that in their defining features also, see, like Tadai and etc. Right? Okay. It's okay. So the one defining okay. One defining feature of Asariyappa is its Urichi. Its Urichi is seer with Uriyasai. Right. So the Uriyasai is Nerbu and Nerebu. So you have Nerbu Nerebu, or Nerbu Nerbu, Nerbu Nerebu, Nerebu Nerebu, Nerebu Nerbu. All these things are Urichi for Asariyappa. Okay. And then Tolkapian also allows that these C's could end in Nirai, not in Ne. So you could have Nerbu Nirai, Nerebu Nirai, that also could, that they are also the Urichi of Asariyappa. Right. So
how do you define the Asariyappa when you don't have Nirebu and Nerbu anymore?
No, see, as we saw with that Kurundohai poem, right? You have the occurrence of Nerbu and Nirebu. So the problem comes how you account for it.
Yeah.
Right? So in the earlier period, you would account for them as a different seed, right? then when it is not anymore a theoretical unit, then you handle it by the measurement, right? You measure sometime like half, yeah, as having matra. Sometimes you ignore counting that, right? That's how that is.
Yeah, but you said that the Urichir Assyria pi is defined by action Yerebu and Yerebu.
Yeah, right. So, so by this definition, the C's of Assyriapa should have Nerbu and Nerebu.
Yerebu, okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So this is this also okay. This also has Yerchir. I mean, Yerchir is common to all of them. Okay. So okay. So the another. So when it comes to Tare, it is the converse of Venva. The Venva is heterogeneous Tare, right? Ne should have Nire should have Ne. Whereas here, it is Ne will have Ne, so Ninda Sir Ne, Vanda Sir Ne, and Nire also the same thing. So for this statement of Tarai, my guess is the Urias Echir also taken to be Yerchi like that, because Tarai is not stated not in terms of Asechir. Sorry, Urias Echir. Right? There is no Tarai that Nerbu should be followed by Nerbu. The Tarai is only Ne should follow by Ne.
Yeah.
So for this purpose, one could guess that all Nerbu would be treated as Ner, or Nerebu would be treated as Nirai for Tarai statement, right? Okay. So the when you okay. So when you check with Tamil scholars, you see how you solve this problem of not having any Tarai stated in terms of Nerbu and Nirebu, they cite the Tolkapiam's statement, you don't have to have Tarai.
Yeah.
So Urichir is important, right? So they have an escape route to do that, but Tolkapiam itself states Tarai.
It just doesn't count it among the Urupu.
It is not counted as Urupu, that's one fact, but also in one place he says that the occurrence of Urichir of a particular Pa is more important than Tarai. Right? So he would decide on the basis whether there is Nerbu Nerebu there.
Okay.
Right? He doesn't have to go what Tarai is. Right? Therefore, you don't ask this question, how Tarai works. Right? But okay, if a grammarian wants to have Tarai to define a poem, then he has to answer this question. Yeah. So at least that's the answer I got from two modern scholars. It's irrelevant for Tolkapiam, and therefore you don't have to worry about that. Okay. Then in terms of the okay, seed, it is irasachir. Right? In that way, it is like Venba. It's irasachir, and also it is not Siradi. So it will have 4 C in that. So that's also like like Venba. So Asayappa allows Vensi, that is Movasachiri ending in Kai, right, which is a Urichir of Venba. Right. So it allows 3 as a chir, but it is from another pa. Right. Then it also Tolkappiyam also says that the Vanji Urichir also is permissible in Asayappa. So Vanji Urichir would be instead of Kachir in Venba, it would be Kanichir. That moves a chir ending in Nirai. Right? So you could see that there are so many Urichirs. So you can take any poem to call it as Asariyappa if you find the Urichir. Right? So then when it comes to the number of lines, the minimum is 3, right, and the maximum is open-ended. Right? Apparangalam clearly says that it is left to the imagination of the poet. Right? Whereas Tolkappiyam says 1,000. I think it's an arbitrary number he threw that. I mean, we can see the problem in the upper number because the epics are in Asayappa, and there is no limit of number to that, right? Then the standard is not Chiradi. See the Adi with four seed, but you have many examples in Sangam which are not of Asayappa, which are not 4C ready, which are not Adi. So you have you have Muchi ready, which we saw in that Syriacat Perine also see some Muchir, and also there are poems with 5C ready. This also we saw in that Syriacat Perine. Right? So the Ilamboranar has 5C in 2 lines or something like that in that particular poem, right? He gives a clear, well, if you take the handout I gave for this week about Asariyappa, right? Okay.
These are the pages from Ilamburna?
Yeah, it's from Ilamburna. If you go to the yes, Sutra Mandilam Kuttam Enjivai, right? That one. So there is one page begins with this Purananuru poem of Syriacat Perine. Can you find that?
It's the third page, and
third page. I think this is a different one. Yeah. See, if you read, it's here. So he takes Syriacat Perine that. So he says, "Padaneladi Asariyathul." So he fixes 17 feet for that. The same Ilamburana cites this in Purathinayal as an example of Irangal. Okay. There he has 20.
Okay.
20 lines, right? So, I mean, we don't know whether somebody else fixed it or he gives 20 and 20 there. So, he clearly gives 17 ஆசிரியத்துள் 7ஆம் அடியும் 12ஆம் அடியும் முச்சீரான் வந்தன. So, 2 lines have only 3 C's according to him, right? 3ஆம் அடி முதலாக 6ஆம் அடி ஈராக 4 அடியும். So that's the standard. So that's 4. Then 14ஆம் அடியும் 5 ஈரான் வந்தன. So 14th has the 5 C's. 2ஆம் அடியும் 11ஆம் அடியும் 6 சீரான் வந்தன. So 2nd and 11th are in 6 C's. ஏனைய 4 சீரான் வந்தன. Okay? Yeah, right. So the rest are
obviously the 2nd and the 14th we can resegment as being 3 C lines.
So the problem with this, as the editors of Iramborna point out, is that it doesn't work. Right? So given the number of seeds, you cannot divide them as he has.
Given the okay.
Yeah, right. So there is no way of adjusting the seeds as he has given. So they have given up. So I don't know how to explain Iramborna's division, right? But it doesn't fan out.
Yeah, and in general, like in Arusir, Adi, it's quite.
It sounds kind of
weird.
Yeah.
Which one?
Like it's in Adi with 6 Sir and Arusir Adi,
yeah, right.
It's kind of
so
weird.
So that is how Iramborna is criticized, right? He is criticized for Ainjir also. See, Tolhapian says it's not seed, and then he gives an allowance, you can have 5 seed also.
Okay.
Right? And the criticism of Iramborna is he is having 5 seed to accommodate that sutra of Tolhapian.
Okay.
So it's not in the poem itself. And 6 seed is his own thing, because Tolhapian doesn't give that, but Tiapurangalam gives that, I think, right? Anyway, I mean, this points out the flexibility in that. Then the most controversial thing is 2C, that is Kuraladi. Right? So the Kuraladi is a feature of Vanjipa, but that also has 3C, right? So according to Jayaraman, who has a book on Yapil Varalaru, he says that Pattupattu and Pattinapalai has 54% of lines in 2C. Right? And Madurai Kanchi has 24% of line with 2C. And Purnanatrupalai has 18%, Paditupattu has 17 things. These are 4 out of the thing. And Ettuthai and Purananuru, in Ettuthai, Purananuru has 14% of 2C. Right? A significant factor is no Aham poem has 2C. I don't know what it says, but it's a significant empirical fact, right? All 2C are in Purapat, right? So since there is such a enormous empirical evidence of 2C, we'll have to explain it somehow, how it fits in.
But we said that 2 C's are normal in Vanjipa.
Kuraladi, that is 2C Radi, is in Vanjipa, but Vanjipa would have Mu as a chi.
Okay.
So Asariyappa has only 2 as a chi, right?
Okay.
So 2 as a chi with 2 Adi is not attested anywhere.
Okay, so the point is that then all of these lines that this Jayaraman is counting, they have Irasait Chir.
Yeah.
And they also have Iruchir Adi.
Corraladi,
Corraladi.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
That's the
basically
problem. Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay.
Right? So
I mean, it is kind of astonishing, this thing about the Patanapalai.
Yeah.
More than half of it is.
Yeah.
I've never read that before, so
right. So I mean, the main problem is why Tolkapiam doesn't admit this or accommodate this, right? So it is a big cleavage between the empirical data, assuming that Tolkapiam is a grammar for Sangam.
Yeah.
Right? This is a discrepancy one will have to explain. And also, I couldn't find that. See, this is commentators like Ilambur and Achinokiniya admit or find some way to get it in Tolkapiam Sutram, right? The two C's correlating is possible, but Perasa rejects that. I mean, as usual, he doesn't want to deviate from Tolkapiam.
In the case of the Patanapalai, going back to the point where you were just making about Lamburna, that what is to keep us from reading that? So 54% of them are 2C lines.
Yeah.
And doing my math quickly in my head, what's to keep us from saying the poem's not 25% shorter and all of those lines are 4 lines, or 4 C lines?
Yeah, I don't know why you cannot do it as 4-line poem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll have to see what the editors say.
The tradition
say
of editing the text, it's
Mm-hmm.
probably interesting in that respect.
Yeah, right. Because that is taken to be given, right? See, Jayaraman takes his data partly from Chidambaram Chettiar's advanced prosody.
Okay.
Right? So, they all take the edited version as giving the minimal grammar, right? So to that, I don't know what the problem would be to take them as 4 lines.
It would also be interesting to see whether in actually later Yapu grammars these poems are used as examples of two sir and sir with sir with 2 aside lines. So in that case, maybe the editors are actually somewhat relying on a continuous tradition of interpretation. Only we don't know all the steps, no?
Yeah, that is true. But the question still remains why Tolkapiam doesn't mention this.
Well, I mean,
right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you cannot say in the tradition Tolkapiam missed it, right?
Right.
Or maybe something changed in the meantime.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Then. Okay. So as I said, Tolkapiam recognizes 3 seeds, so you could have 3 seeds and Koraladi as well as 4 seeds. That is Aravadi in Asariyappa, and everybody quotes this Siriyagat Pirine as an example in Sangam for 5 seed. So we don't know whether it is Ilambona's creation or it actually 5C. Okay. Okay. So the other factor which we already noted when we read that Kurundakai poem as well as this Purananuru poem is the mixing of lines from another pa. Right? So in that Purananuru poem, you have Vanchiyadi coming together with mixed with interspersed with Asariyadi, right? And also we already saw that Vensi, which is specific for Venba, is also accepted in Asariyappa. Right? So, okay. Okay. So then, now let us go to the sub-classification of Asariyappa. Right. So this is based on the properties or characteristics of lines in Asariyappa, right? So if all lines have 4 seed, right? No 3 seed or 2 seed. That is called Nilai Mandila Asariyappa. So Nilai Mandila Asariyappa is one where all lines have equally 4 seed, right? So if you take Nilai as meaning standard, so that seems to be the standard one. And also it suggests, I mean, one thing we should note that when the so when Vasariyappa allows Sindadi, that is Adi with 3 seeds, first Adi and the last Adi are excluded from that. They must be with 4 seeds, right? So that is, some people think that that is the meaning of Mandalam, that is the first and last. Mandalam is going in cycle, so that the length of the first and the last should be maintained, right?
Can I ask you a question
yeah.
here? How do we understand that one line is the last line of 4 lines Asariyappa? In the sense,
so no, see
since it could be running,
yeah,
right?
Right, but it ends at some point, right?
I mean, it ends at some point, but how do I know that it's for the overall structure? It's thanks to Todae, it's thanks to something else? I mean, Vemba is easy, right? When we have a 3 seed line, that will be it's the last line, and then you start with another stanza. I was just wondering whether there is an easy way to say, if I have it printed as running text with adis, but no break between the verses or stanzas.
So if you are talking about Tanipadalas in Sangam, it's not a problem, right? Because the poem ends in a semantic
of course,
sense, right?
But I'm talking
if you are talking about the long poems, so it should be the last one. In Silappadiharam, it will be the last one of a canto, which would be the final one.
So, but okay, so you would say that you don't break it up. In fact, that's the point. When you read Silappadiharam, it's like it's a metrical line, but it's running.
Yeah.
But you don't get, as you're explaining right now, you don't get a formal indication the way even in one of the lengthier, even in one of the Paktapakta, you get that 3, the 3 Siyahari, and that's letting the reader know that it's about to end. You don't get that in
the one clue you get is Asariyappa has a requirement of how it ends. What's the Asai, see, should be Ye. Right? It ends in Ye. So that could be an indicator that it's an end.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. This is Nilamandila Asariyappa according to the scholars. 30 poems in Sangam are in Nilamandila Asariyappa. That is, only 30 poems in the entire Sangam corpus has all lines with 4 seal, with Aravadi, right? In Silappadiharam, 19 cantos out of 20 have this format of Asariyappa. Right. So, and the whole of Manimekalai and Perungadai is composed in this formal. So what it suggests is that Kavyas prefer Nilamandala Asariyappa rather than Tanipada, lyrics thing, right? Okay. So compared to this, in Sangam, with Muchir, that is Sindadi, in the penultimate is more common in Sangam.
In the penultimate, the one but last, right?
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. So this is again contrasting with Venba. See, Venba is the last line. See, last line would have 3 C's, whereas Asariyappa is the last but one. So the penultimate one has 3 C's, and this is the common common pattern in Sangam corpus, right? Okay. So when the penultimate line has 3 C's, that is Sindadi, that has the name of Nerisai Asariyappa. Yeah. So
which has nothing to do with the Viharpam.
Which has nothing to do with?
This Nerisai Asariyappa definition has nothing to do with Vikarpam. It's just the third line being Muchir.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right.
And where Nerisai, though, in this case, seems to have some sort of meaning like standard or typical, right? Maybe.
Near is, that could be one meaning. I mean, the common feature you could think between Venba and this is that Nerisai in Venba is when the 4th seal is Tanichi.
Yeah.
Right. So otherwise it is 3 seal. Right. So that is probably applicable here. Right. So when you have 3 seals, then it's called Nerisai. Right. So.
But could we understand that term Nerisai as it occurs in different places in metrical theory, in Yapil, to mean something like prototypical or prototype? Meaning the standard from which other things, and maybe this is your point of your question, where Vikarpam is then deviating from that.
Let's see. No, I mean the division is for Nerisai and Nenisai. Viharpam is a different one. It's superimposed on that depending on Tode. So this has nothing to do with Tode. So this is whether what the status of the 4th seal. So if the 4th seal is a Tanichal, then it is Nerisai. If the 4th seal is missing, that is Nerisai.
In this case.
Right. So it is on the basis of the status of what is a 4th seal. Right. So over and above that, you have Tode Viharpam.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So the third when the penultimate line has 1 seal less, right? That seal could be Muvasai. See, for Sasariyappa, it is basically Irasai. Right? But that the third seal of penultimate could be Muchir, right? It has to be checked whether that Muchir is Vensil, because Asariyam allows Muchir, only that Muchir. So it's likely that it would be a Kaichi Muchir, right? Okay. So when you have less than 4, let's say 3 or even 2, if the theory has 2, if it comes in pairs or in a, what do you call, in pair or three, I mean.
Triplets or clusters or
Right.
something.
So then it's called, okay, let's say first let us talk about when, okay, the 3C, okay, can occur anywhere except the last and first. Right? The most favored spot for 3C is penultimate. Right? But it can occur elsewhere also. Right? When it occurs elsewhere, it could be scattered anywhere, or it could come in pairs or in a cluster of 3 or 4.
Okay.
Right? So if that is there, it is called Inekural Asariyappa.
Okay.
So Kural here is for the Kural Adi, right? It's a short. This not the length of the poem, but length of the see. So it started with Kural Adi, but commentators have extended it not only pairs but also any combination of things. So even when three Adis have three Seed, Sindhadi, then it also goes by the same name, Inai Kural Asiyappa. Even though it's not Inai, the meaning of Inai is not pair here, it is together or something, something like that. So that is the Inai Kural Asiyappa, but some people use different terminology. They call it Idai Kural Asariyappa. That is, any line in between Idai with 3 C's is Idai Kural Asariyappa. Right? Okay. So these classifications are based on the size of the seed or the length of the seed. Right? So we have Nilai Mandala Asariyappa, where uniform. Every line, every adi has four C's, and if you have three C's, primarily in the penultimate line, but anywhere in the poem, that is Nerisai Asariyappa. And if that comes in clusters or in pairs, then it is called Inekural Asariyappa or Idekural Asariyappa. So this is one type, one subclass of Asariyappa based on the distribution of 3 C's in that, right? That is one way of classifying that. The other one is each line could be autonomous. Autonomous in the sense that it is coterminous with the sentence. Right? Like some C's are coterminous with words, and the line Adi could be coterminant with a sentence. A consequence of that is you can change the order without any violation. Right? So it's a sequence of statements, and you could put the third statement as second, and like that. And that has a name, Adi Mari Mandila Asariyappa. Adi Mari is exchanging the line. Right? So that is another type of subtype of Asariyappa, and here there is a debate between Ilamburanar and Perasariyar. Ilamburanar takes a position that this relates to what's called purul hole. I don't remember the Sanskrit word. See, to get the meaning by changing the order of the line. Right?
Okay.
So you can get the meaning by taking a word from somewhere else and fit it here. So he takes it to be related to that. So this is, this kind of arrangement is a mechanism of having the purul hole. You could have a different order. Perasir doesn't agree with him. He says that in purul hole, this is not the only way. There are other ways of making purul hole, like reciprocal and things like that. Not any of them plays a role in classifying Asariyappa, and therefore classifying Asariyappa by the independence of or autonomy of line is different from purul. I think that makes sense. Right? Okay. Okay. So the okay. So the one thing about Tolhapiam is Tolhapiam doesn't give these names, but he talks about these concepts. He uses in his sutra words like mandalam and kurtam. Kurtam is used for the shorter lines from kural. This is another word for kural which he uses. But he doesn't give names like this. Right? So that's why I would say that Tolhapi talks about variations in that. But later on they become varieties and with different names. And in general, the taxonomy gets greater focus in the later period. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then the other question with Asariyappa is if there is Tanichal, where it should be, right? So the common place for Tanichal is the fourth seal, right? But they should then that is relaxed. You could have it in the the first seal could be a Tanichal. Remember that Vanchipattu, which the video recording said, Val Valamdara Marupattana. This is Vanjedi. So the Val is taken to be as a Tanichi. So, see, the place for Tanichi could also be the first, in the beginning. In terms of syntax, it's more like a topic and comment, right? What it is like this, like that. Again, Perasir doesn't agree with this. Right? He says it should be taken as a subject, not as a topic. Val Valamdara Marupattana means Val Valamdara is a sentence, and Marupattana is another sentence, right? You would see this. Okay, you would see this according to Shanmudas, more commonly used in bhakti poems, you see, where you describe the different parts of the god and then make a comment on.
Yeah, I have to say, I find this almost like a category error. The idea of talking about Tanichol in Asariyappa. I think of it as being distinctive of Renba, right? Right. Is the discussion about Tanichol? Is this something that only comes up? Does Tolhapian not talk about this at all? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
This the Sayurial talks about Koonadal. Koon is Tanichol. Koonadal neredi kurite. So he allows it only for the neredi, that is 4 seal, but this is expanded to the lines irrespective of the length.
When talking about Assyriapa, I mean.
Yeah,
He allows
in
it.
Assyria.
Okay.
In Assyriapa, right? Okay,
And it's the same rules pertain that it has to construe with things that come after it in the verse, etc. Like we see with Vernba, that Tanichol has to be syntactically independent of the things that precede it.
Yeah, right. So the wording in Yaparangalam is Adi mudal porul pera varuvadu tanichol. It makes it very clear. It's a semantic effect. Adi mudal, that is the first term. See it. Porul pera varuvadu. So it is independent of the C formation. Varuvadu tanichol. So there is a major shift here about Tanichol. In that, right? I mean, Tanichol, even with reference to Venba, has a different syntactic status.
Yeah.
Right. It's further expanded into other kinds of syntactic functions.
Right.
For Tanisha, right?
I mean, yeah, so we could think about like lines that regularly begin with an invocation in Bhakti poetry.
Yeah, right.
That then is completely detached from what the rest of the syntax, and then you would identify that beginning in a way.
Yeah,
with the Tanichol.
Yes, right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this could have been an influence of Bhakti poems, you see, which expands the Tanichal. I mean, as in Asiriyappa, it happens in Vanjipa also. One thing which is art is Nachinal Kriya gives an example. He says that Tanichal occurs in the middle of a line. Right. And his example is Kalangalalir Thurai Kalakkanade. Right. So he takes Thurai as a Tanichal. I don't know on what ground he takes that. So it is it's a subject. Right? Kalangalalir Thurai Kalakkanade. Thurai Kalakkanade. Thurai got muddy, right? So it's not found with others, right? So maybe there was an attempt to extend Tanichol to other places also, but generally the Tanichol is in the fourth seer, right? And fourth seer in a line in a specific place.
Yeah.
See, like Venba is the second one, like that. Then it is expanded to say anywhere in the any line in fourth seed could be a Tanichol, and then it moves to the first seed as
but this though only in Assyriapa. Venba as very strict Tanichol rules.
Yeah, also Vanjipa.
Also Vanjipa, okay.
Right. Yeah.
These other verses, okay.
Yeah. So the one point which the commentators discuss is whether these are variations of Asariyappa, or these are variations coming from interposing other paths into it. Right. So what we call this mandalam and things like that. Some commentators have argued that these are all features of Kalipa. What happens is Asariyappa uses Kalipa. So it is not a new kind of Asiriyapa. So it comes from the Mayakam between the things. So we'll see. I haven't fully understood to see what would make the issue decided. Right? This is not a variation of Vasiriyappa, but it's a result of Vasiriyappa being more open and more flexible. So you get various. I think so. If you take that it is from Kalipa, then it would also follow that in Kalipa these are different parts of Kalipa. The Kalipa is divided into having Taravu, Talisai, and this Suridaham, and the last one, right? So this also would go into that, but we had to look at more critically about that. Then the point about Asiriyappa, I don't see the classification based on Tode Viharpam. Logically, it should also have Tode Viharpam classification as Venba has, right? Like Paktode Venba, Paltode Venba, so you should have Paltode Asiriyappa, right? But I don't see anywhere there.
But isn't it generally, going back to what you said at the beginning of your remarks about Asiriyappa, isn't Asiriyappa is relatively less determined by the presence of features like Tode, right? I mean, it is really just the Urichia and the number of Cs per line, and the fact the penultimate line usually has 3, although it doesn't always.
Yeah.
I mean,
so we don't have the kind of like higher order prosodic effects that, and maybe that potentially is the contrast with something like Venba. If you say that they're paradigmatically opposed to each other, Venba has these things and Asiriya can, but doesn't necessarily, and so it doesn't have to.
It doesn't necessarily is required of Asiriyappa, but we don't know why, right? I mean, it does differentiate it from Venba, right? But why Tode is more important for Venba than because here also you have Yaduhai and things like that.
But also in Venba you are operating basically 99% of the cases on a 4 lines verse. When with Asiriyappa you are operating on like cantos. I mean, calculating the variation of Todai in one Silappadiharam canto is kind of a I mean, just useless exercise.
Or even that it's like that it's so undetermined that it can be anything from 3 lines
up
to 1,000.
It could be anything.
I mean, in that sense.
But you could have in Cs, right? So it will have only 4 Cs, right?
Yeah.
You could have Monet in 4 Cs.
Sure.
All those variations of.
I'm not saying that they are not there. I'm just saying that the kind of creating like a classification sounds
I mean, that's
a bit.
True. I mean, empirically you have this sort of, but that's not given any theoretical significance for classification of Asiriyam into various subkinds, right?
If I can ask a kind of historical question, sort of looking forward in time. So going back to, since I missed your discussion last week, maybe you already discussed this. So I mean, we know that Korovenba only has 2 lines, and then we have, so is Venba, when it occurs as a theorized entity in Mitholhapium and later, is normally, as Margarete was just saying, 90% of the time or something going to be for Narari, right? But what's the earliest work that's actually written like that? Because there's no extended Venba works in any of the Sangha portals, right?
Okay. So if you go to the earliest period, I mean, it's not earlier because the Venba is added in some or all of Patupatu, but this is by the compiler of that. It's not the original.
So
but you find Venba as a unit within Kalipa and Kalipa Timanjipo also.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an independent verse as Asiripa is, but it could be one of the units of Kalipa,
Right.
for example. Right? So that is the earliest occurrence of Venba.
Because over the long term, what's interesting to me personally is the way that there's a kind of long-term pressure onto Tamil metrical practice to become stanzaic poetry, to become poetry with a certain number of artis, verse by verse, rather than something like the Sarvadhiharam.
Like Kamban, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that, and so in a certain degree, even just at the level, even though at the level of practice it's quite different, and chime in, Andrew, here at any point if you want to. At the level of metrical practice, it's never quite, the level of theory, it's never borrowing from, Sanskritic or Prakritic metrical forms that we can really see, but it just at the level of nomenclature where they have to start using this word virutam to describe it, which is describing stanzaic poetry. So what's interesting to me is that over the very, very long term, and long before that's even imaginable by anyone, we have already this essentially body of stanzaic metrical theory to make the Renba. Even though we do have exceptions like the 16-line Renba. So
you mean that when you have stanzas, it must have a standard number of lines.
Yes, and maybe, so goes the argument, picking up on what Margarita was just saying, when you have defined stanzaic limits, let's say, in a kind of probabilistic, statistical way, a 4-line Renba, then somehow the higher level restrictions on other things, like the Tarais, becomes more possible or more desirable, or just maybe even just theorizable in the because then you can say we have then we have Monai and Yedahai, and the Yedahai also reoccurs in the fourth seed, etc. But if you don't have that, if you have anything from an Ainguru Nuru 3-line stanza through a Sarvadhiharam Gadai with 200 lines in it, then you can't, and then there's just no way to even begin to build up a general, I don't know, and this is very, very speculative, whether there's no way to begin to build up a theory about other, features above just prosodic measuring, and into things like phonetic properties, and getting into things like Varnam.
Yeah, so you could say then when you have such long poems, Todai cannot be used for defining purposes.
Or maybe it doesn't occur to them, right? Outside of
just an aesthetic one.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is again
Todai is necessary for aesthetics anyway.
Yeah.
But what they do here is to use it to classify the poem, which is quite different from the aesthetic function of Todai. Yeah. But what Whitney says now is that we do find Todai in cantos, but it's only for aesthetic, right, not for any.
Yeah. In my very anecdotal sense from reading the Purananura or reading the Sarvadhiharam or something like that, is that it is just kind of, they're just used ornamentally.
Yes.
Rather than requisitely and rather as a way. So.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that doesn't actually resolve itself into a thesis or a question or anything like that. I guess the real point of theoretical interest for Venba, for me, in contrast to Asiripa, is that it is this, you can, it in some way it's sort of setting the course for the long future of Tamil metrical theory and metrical practice, once we see this stanzaic turn, if that's the right term to use.
And it's also, it would be interesting for me, and I don't know whether we have Asiripa aside for Asirya Viruttam,
right,
happening, being used for like in a sustained way in works in the second millennium, like because all of the epics were, and all of your examples, these are like first millennium sort of big texts. But do we have an Assyriapa text? I mean,
there's the Kallardam, right?
there is the Kallardam, which is but after that, like the as we go in more and more into let's say late medieval or modern, whether there is that is used.
Pursuing your line of thinking, then we had to explain, as I said, that Tolhapir is not interested in using Todai for classification. Right? He just points out that these are variation. Right. So this is a preoccupation of the later grammarian, right? I don't know whether there is any relation between stanzaic thing and this interest in classifying.
Well, and maybe you can argue that, so if empirically speaking we have this higher density of Todai in Renba, now because Tolhapianar doesn't theorize that it's not there in his theory, but people begin to discuss it from Yahulangalam, right? Then you have to have you have certain.
I think what I now realize is that much of what Yahulangalam does goes back to Kake Padini. So if the legend is to be believed that Kake Padini Author and Tolhapia were classmates, then that must be two alternative theories, right? Which is said to be classmates.
Right. I mean, and there is a kind of interpretive truth of that idea, right? That we do have a very
so there are two schools of thought from the time of Tolhapian. One is just what we discuss about the role of Todai and whether it squarely belongs to aesthetics or it has a role in prosody. Right? I mean, that's a basic question. Right?
This doesn't get very late into the second millennium, but the other place where you see long form Assyriapa composition continue is in like Torah Mekiftis.
Yeah.
I mean, it's of some relative interest to me because actually, when Beski has to translate prose into Tamil, and he wants to translate it into something which is not prose because you don't really write prose, then he uses Assyriapa.
Okay, really.
So he has a translation of the Apocalypse into Assyriapa, which is like a 25 lines thing. But I think the idea of the running verse is part of the thing, right? But I'm not aware, like as late as the 16th, 17th century, maybe like inscriptions and Mekiftis being also though this kind of liminal text in many ways.
Right.
But I was wondering what I don't have examples of the literature coming immediately to mind. So that was a bit my question. But of course that's a much smaller scale. But I found that interesting, that connection between somewhat the verse that you use when you don't want to use stanzas because that you need something running.
I mean, the other case would be the Siddhapabhayarams of different works.
Yeah, of course.
Those are usually written in
those are right. That's also a very interesting point.
Because that must carry on for a long time.
Yeah, that goes on really very late 19th century today.
Yeah, the other point about Assyriapa is the ending asai, right? It Tolhapiam less A O E I N I. These are the six ending. One thing to be noted is that all of them are nerasai. So that means the Assyriapa should end in nerasai, and they also are amenable for extending things. So if they were actually recited, I mean, you could end it under the A, something like so maybe that has some folk characteristics. And then the other one which doesn't belong this kind of elongation is yen as a Asariyapa ending, and that is found only in epics, not in Sangam, right?
Okay.
In Silappadiharam, every
Almost
canto
every
ends
canto,
ends in yen. And then when we come to Asuriya Thalai, as I said, it is a converse of Venba, so it would be homogeneous. Homogeneous collocation, but there is one. It also contrasts with regard to the Vensi. See, when it occurs, the collocation is nirai, not near in Asariyapa. Right? So that also it's the converse of Venba. So see, the basic principle of heterogeneous collocation exists in Acharya-pa, whether it is Irasai or Movasai, right? The same thing continues, right?
But if a Muvasai Chir comes, which is characteristic of Renba, then behaves like Renba, so to say, going into the next Chir, where you say that in that case that has to have
it has to. In terms of Tala, it behaves differently.
It behaves differently from any other
Venba.
thing in.
So Venba. So when let's say Venba has heterogeneous, but when it comes to Muchir, it is homogeneous. Kachir should be followed by Ner.
Okay.
Whereas here Kachir is followed by Nirai.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't understand. I didn't know that for Venba. Okay. Great.
Yeah. So the Venba that is, I mean, heterogeneous for Yerchir and homogeneous for
Kurichir.
Yeah. And
okay.
here it
okay.
it is a reverse. Reverse.
Okay.
I mean, it's a kind of mirror image of Venba. Right? Yeah. And then we know that it is Ahavalosai for Asariyapa. Right? So.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll stop here. Right?
Yeah.